Though I was blind, but now I see. Dear friends in Christ, there was a small story about a man who always quarreled with his wife. And at the end of each quarrel, the wife would always say, "Darling, I am sorry. I was wrong." One day, after another misunderstanding, they came together again. As the wife wanted to apologize as usual, their little child spoke up and said, "Today, Dad, you must say sorry to Mom. You are also wrong sometimes. Dad, say sorry." The father hesitated and wanted to put the blame on the wife again. But the child spoke again, even louder. "Dad, say sorry today. You are also a human being." The father looked at the child, then at his wife, and finally said, "I am deeply sorry." The child clapped with joy and said, "Wow, that's my lovely dad." Then they all hugged one another. Their relationship was healed because of his willingness to admit his own blind spot. This is a great lesson of today's readings. God does not look at appearances, but at the heart, our readiness to cooperate with His grace. Something the Pharisees, who loved outward appearances, could not understand. Already in the first reading, God's choice of David confirmed this truth. Not as man sees does God see, because man sees the appearance, but the Lord looks into the heart. 1 Samuel chapter 16, verse 7. God sees deeper. This same truth shown even more powerfully in the gospel. In the Gospel of John chapter 9, verse 1 to 41, Jesus encountered a man who had been blind from birth. He did something remarkable. He made mud, placed it on the man's eyes, and told him to wash in the pool of Siloam. The man obeyed, and when he returned, he could see. But the miracle was only the beginning of the story. Instead of rejoicing, the Pharisees began interrogating the man. They questioned the miracle. Their problem was not a lack of evidence, it was spiritual blindness. They were so certain of their own righteousness that they could not recognize God's work standing right before them. Meanwhile, the man who had been blind became the clearest witness of all. He did not argue theology or pretend to know everything. He simply spoke the truth of his experience. "One thing I do know, though I was blind, now I see." John chapter 9, verse 25. What a powerful confession. He did not claim perfection. He did not pretend to understand everything about Jesus. He simply testified to what God had done in his life. That humility became the doorway through which faith grew. The tragedy of the Pharisees was the opposite. They believed they already saw. They believed they were already righteous. Because of that, they closed themselves to grace. Jesus later said to them, "If you were blind, you would have no sin. But now that we see, your sin remains." John chapter 9, verse 41. Their greatest blindness was their refusal to admit that they were blind. And if we are honest, This temptation still exists today. Sometimes in everyday life, we meet people who act holier than thou. They are quick to point out the faults of others, quick to label others as sinners, and quick to judge. Yet, they rarely examine their own hearts. They see the weakness in others, but ignore their own blind spots. And those blind spots can take many forms. Gossip that destroys reputations, calumny that spreads lies, jealousy that poisons relationships, or quiet resentment hidden in the heart. These are not forms of physical blindness, but spiritual blindness. That is why Lent is such a precious season. Lent is a time when Christ gently touches our eyes again. It is a time when we allow God to reveal the areas where we cannot see clearly. Sometimes that realization is uncomfortable, but it is also healing. When we finally say, "Lord, I need your grace," then the miracle begins. St. Paul reminded us of this transformation in the second reading. He says, "For you were once darkness, but now you are light in the Lord. Live, therefore, as children of light." Ephesians chapter 5, verse 8. And then he proclaimed a powerful call to conversion. "Sleeper, awake, rise from the dead, and Christ will shine on you." Ephesians chapter 5, verse 14. He was telling us, wake up from spiritual blindness, rise from the habits that keep us in darkness. Dear friends, when we surrender our blindness, Christ gives each one sight. "For though I was blind, but now I see." And as the hymn reminds us so beautifully, "Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.